What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I've got an interesting video for you guys today. We've got Alan Lictman again. Now, we've talked about Alan Lictman several times and just how wrong Alan Lictman was, but TYT, Cenk Uygur, just put up a clip the other day of a debate he had with Alan Lictman where they're trying to debate the feasibility of Alan's 13 keys to the White House. And, you know, Cenk saw some blaring inconsistencies, if you will, with his keys that he wanted to kind of work out and see exactly how. Well, we come to find out throughout this debate, it's quite astonishing, if you ask me. Alan Lictman is sitting on this high horse, right? And, you know, after the election, we learned that he lost, but hang on, like looking back at this, we see that he wasn't on his high horse. He thought he was still on his high horse, but he got knocked off of his high horse. He's sitting on the ground, still thinking he's sitting on top. He's consistently going in on Cenk Uygur, like you're wrong, I'm right, I'm the only one who's right, I've got a consistent track record of being right, blah, 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 you get it. Now, let's get into this thing right quick just to see exactly what we're dealing with. I'm going to run a short little clip just to get an air of what this guy is about.
And this is a debate that should never have happened because there is no comparison between my record of predicting elections and the record of Cenk and all the other critics of Joe Biden. Those critics have zero, I repeat, zero track record in predicting elections, including Cenk. In his video, he said he predicted two elections, 2012, which he did not document, and 2016, which he did try to document. But one of his followers pointed out to me his documentation was fundamentally misleading. I did my research. His documentation came from July 2016. And as his follower indicated, he then changed his prediction of Trump. And I found the clip. Just 3 weeks before the election, Cenk predicted that Hillary Clinton would win because she was so far ahead in critical state polls, the kinds he's citing right now. And I caught a clip of Cenk after the election in which he said Hillary Clinton should reasonably have been expected to be president-elect because the polls pointed that way. He never claimed to have predicted a Donald Trump victory, which would have been a huge feather in his cap. But beyond that, his record or prediction is even more suspect. He predicted Bernie Sanders would be the Democratic nominee in 2020 and would beat Donald Trump. He said that Joe Biden, if he was the nominee, would have no chance to beat Donald Trump.
Okay, so clearly this guy's arrogant as hell, right? He's like, nobody else is right. I'm the only one that's right. Everybody else is wrong. This is clear through my keys, blah, 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 blah. Well, the reason I'm going over this is because it was just put out on TYT the other day, and I came across it, and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. I'm glad Cenk put this thing out there because it just goes to show, like, right, I thought after his keys proved to be a spectacular failure, right? I thought, oh, this guy's brain is broken. He shows up on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I was just like, wow, Cenk Uygur went in on him, and this dude's brain is broken. But come to find out, his brain's been broken. This guy's living in a delusion world, right? Like, the keys themselves are not that bad. They're actually pretty good. It's a pretty good indicator. However, when you base your keys upon fake news, come to find out your keys are wrong if you put the wrong information into the keys. But all in all, when you look at everything, you know, all the constituent parts, each individual key, they all make a lot of sense. They all make a whole hell of a lot of sense, as a matter of fact. And as Tim Pool, as a matter of fact, went over all this and showed where his keys, his conclusions to his keys were just totally wrong. Like, where's this guy getting his information from? But let's keep going with this thing because it's outright amazing.
My key is if you're in the 30s, you're toast. But if I was looking at that 1968 election, I would have said, yeah, my key is that if you're in the 30s and you're an incumbent, you're definitely going to lose, except his opponent is in the 20s. So it makes a difference when you look at the context and the situation, and you don't seem to be open to looking at the context. So let me ask you some extremes to see if it jars your 13 keys loose. So what if your brother?
I doubt it.
Okay, I got you. And you're saying raw number, right? Raw number, whoever has more keys out of the 13 wins, right?
Keys, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Six
Okay.
keys and you're out.
Okay, so if let's say that Biden has 7 or 8 or 9 of the keys on his side, right? Or any candidate, forget Biden. But every day he comes out and does a press conference and punches himself in the face. And people are like, whoa, what the hell's going on? The president's lost his mind. Do the keys still say that he's going to win?
Well, this is something I've never heard before, the punch in the face theory of how to predict presidential elections. The truth is, as I said, your predictions haven't worked, and there's a simple
No, Professor Lichtman, it's a question to you. Don't worry about my, you can say my predictions suck, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so just, I'm giving you an extreme example. Or the candidate comes out and every day punches a new baby in the face. Are you still going, nope, I'm sticking with the keys, 9 out of 13 keys, the keys will determine.
Of course, I'm sticking with the keys because they've been right for 40 years. You can't predict elections from this kind of off the top of your head speculation, which is why you've been wrong so many times. It doesn't work.
Okay, so let's.
Okay, so that example was kind of absurd, but it proves the point that Alan Lictman is so inflexible upon his keys and where he gets his information from that he can't see the forest because he's surrounded by a bunch of trees. That's what Cenk Uygur is trying to get at here, and he's making a pretty clear point, and Alan Lictman doesn't seem to get it. This guy's a professor, for crying out loud. They put a lot of work into doing these keys, right? They were made up a long time ago, I believe in the 80s, and he's been correct in predicting elections, so obviously something here works. It's all about the information that's input into the system. When you put in the wrong information, you know, the prediction that comes out of that system is going to be wrong, obviously, but he doesn't seem to get this, and this is what Cenk Uygur is trying to get at here. I know it's odd that I'm in agreement with Cenk Uygur because, yeah, we disagree on a lot of things, but we agree on a lot more things than we disagree upon. I bet that comes to the shock of a lot of people out there, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. That's just reality. That's how reality works. But obviously, Alan Lictman doesn't realize that he's living in a delusion. He's living in a dream world, right? He was still thinking Joe Biden's going to win this election. So obviously, this was taken before Joe Biden even dropped out. It was actually that brief period in between the disastrous debate that Joe Biden had with Donald Trump and the time he dropped out. So it was just that a few days period. I think it was like a week or something like that. I forget. Let me know down in the comment section. I'm not 100% sure, but this thing, it just delves into the delusion, if you will. Let's keep going.
Okay, so I mean, I can't believe you said if a candidate punches a baby every day in the face, he's still gonna win if he's got the keys. Okay,
I'm not going to respond to such an absurd.
Okay, let's make it a little less absurd. Everybody thinks that, not everybody, to be clear, 72% of Americans think that he's not mentally healthy enough to be, to run and to be president. And you said that was incorrect. It is correct. We can put up the poll if you like. And in that scenario, he's not that far away from Americans viewing him as Dianne Feinstein. And even today, right before you came out, breaking news, he's at the NATO summit and called Zelensky Putin. So what if he was Feinstein and they're just wheeling him around in like the late Feinstein days? And remember, they were pretending she was fine and that she could still be senator. So if Biden is in that shape, would you still say, nope, I got my keys, keys are gonna determine it?
I'm not going to respond to these absurdities, but I will respond to your real data, the only data you presented, and that is that 72% thought he was not healthy or had the mental acuity, was too old to run. That does not mean that they will not vote for him. And that's the bottom line. And as we saw, the recent polls, despite all your attacks on him, and all the Democrats' attacks on him, and all the journalists' attacks on him, have not dented his prospects to win according to your criteria, which are the polls. And they certainly haven't changed my criteria with the keys to the White House. And by the way, Donald Trump has committed way worse gaffes than Joe Biden. He confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. How could you possibly do that? He didn't know the name of his own doctor, who's been his physician for so many years. He has gone off on the most.
Professor Lictman,
last sentence. So let me finish my sentence.
Yeah.
And he's gone off on the most incoherent of rants, including, sharks and electric boats. So you got to, you say your system is based on looking at campaigns and candidates, but you only focus on Biden. You don't focus on Trump, who beyond that has said he's going to be a dictator on day one. And every dictator in the history of the world who's been a dictator on day one has been a dictator forever. So look at Trump. Don't just focus on Biden.
Okay, so that's what I mean by living in a delusion world. Okay, this was a narrative put out by Democrats. Oh, Donald Trump is cognitively declined as well, just as bad as Joe Biden. When you can look at the two men put together, and we can clearly see that Joe Biden is cognitively declined. He's in a bad shape. He's suffering over here, while Donald Trump isn't so much. Sure, does Donald Trump have gaffes? Just like everybody else, right? But they cherry pick these things. This is what I mean by he's basing his worldview, he's basing the input to his machine upon MSNBC fake news, right? This was a narrative pushed out by a lot of Democrats, right? But not all of them, because people could clearly see they had to have some sort of attack angle on Donald Trump, and this was just one that they latched onto, right? You get hours and hours and hours and hours of a person speaking. You're going to get gaffes here and there, especially somebody that speaks as much as Donald Trump does, and this doesn't factor into his keys, quote unquote. This is a problem. Talking about Dianne Feinstein, right? Joe Biden was going down that path. That clearly is going to affect the perception a voter has upon their vote, right? If 72% of America thinks Joe Biden can't do the job, all of those keys are just blown out of the freaking water, just right off top. And this is the point Cenk Uygur's trying to get at. But let's keep going and see what other insanity this guy has to put out.
But Professor Lichtman, we focus on Trump till the cows come home. I did 99 segments on loser Donald. I think Donald Trump, his IQ is in the single digits. I think he's a borderline lunatic. But the Republican voters have super clearly said, we love that lunatic, and you cannot move his base. And currently that lunatic is beating your candidate. Oops. Okay, so last couple of things here, Professor Lichtman. Look, I'm not trying.
Biden's not my candidate.
Well, it certainly sounds like it.
And I predicted Trump. You didn't in 2016.
Okay, brother.
I predicted
Okay.
Reagan in 1984.
Okay, you're the best. You're the best. Okay, so listen, brother.
Thank you.
But I'm trying to see if you have an open mind and if you're being honest with yourself, let alone the audience, because I think you're leading him in a very wrong direction right now. So when you say, hey, the last couple of polls came out and they're not so bad, you understand that it's the aggregate of the polls, because I could show you a poll where Biden is losing by 12 in Nevada. So cherry picking polls is wrong. You know that, right?
You're wrong there, of course. Polls are snapshots and they change overnight. So you can't rely on polls taken a week or 2
So the
weeks
very
ago.
last poll is the only one that should count, you think?
The most relevant polls, if polls are relevant at all, because they change so rapidly, are the most recent polls, and they're not close. Trump underwater 25 points.
You
Biden
think it's
underwater
not close,
8 points.
Alan Lictman? You sound like you're on a
Biden
different
winning
planet.
in
You think it's not
Wisconsin
close
and
that
Michigan
Biden's going to blow
and
out
tied
Trump?
nationally.
You know he might resign tomorrow. Are you aware of anything that's going on? The NATO presser is going to be a disaster. He already called Zelensky Putin. He's already got 8 defections at the beginning of the show, and one came in during the middle saying he should resign the presidency. And you think that the aggregate of polls don't count? That's amazing. And then you mentioned the polls of the other candidates doing worse. You understand that the other candidates don't have as much name recognition now, but on election day would have massive and overwhelming name recognition, and that the polls are skewed by the fact that that they don't have much name recognition now. You acknowledge that, right?
No, a lot of these candidates have enormous name recognition. Al Gore was one of them. Hillary Clinton,
Wes Moore, Andy Bashir. People don't know these. But you see, that's what I'm saying, Professor Lichtman. It doesn't seem like you're being objective. You know that Wes Moore doesn't have enough name recognition. That's why he does poorly in the poll. Don't you know that?
He's not in that poll. Of course not. I agree with that. But certainly Hillary Clinton, Al Gore.
Nobody wants Hillary Clinton to run. Nobody's arguing for Hillary Clinton.
On the other side, they have not been subjected to all of these attacks that have been relentlessly launched for a month against Joe Biden. Despite all those attacks, He's now inched ahead in the key swing states. He's even with Trump in the national polls, and he's way ahead of Trump when it comes to approval.
Okay, so to outright say the polls don't matter is like Cenk said, it's kind of ludicrous. Now, I'm kind of in the middle on that one, right? The polls matter, of course, obviously, right? But the thing is, you got to look at the background information. You got to look at the cross references, the methodology, and all this other stuff. They have some very accurate pollsters out there. Some of them are outright garbage. You can't look at every individual single little poll. No, you got to go with the most accurate. You can look back throughout history and look at the methodology and look at all these polls, who was more accurate during this election cycle, and you find out that some of these pollsters are very accurate. So these are the polls you want to look at because of the methodology they use is unbiased. They want to get the genuine sentiment on the ground from the people. And for Alan Lictman to say that doesn't matter, that's absurd. It is. It's outright absurd. Now, a lot of those polls, sure, they don't matter. But once again, you got to look at the ones that do matter. Some of those polls absolutely called it, right? Rasmussen was one of the most accurate polls. Rich Barris also had some I think he was the most accurate pollster in America for the past 3 election cycles. So those do matter. For him to just brush that off is just absurdity. Oh, my keys are the most accurate prediction source. No, get off of yourself, right? Other factors matter, my guy. But let's keep going. I don't want to harp on all these things for too long.
There was a 12-point swing.
Barack Obama and Joe Biden are not the same. You don't have eyes.
Let me finish. Don't talk over me. Romney went from -8 to +4, and all the same off the top of their head, no scientific basis pundits were pronouncing Barack Obama dead. And that was a poll just a few weeks before the election.
I said that debate was irrelevant because Barack Obama was strong, and the context of Barack Obama was an incredibly strong candidate. The context of Biden is that he can't remember any words. He thinks he was the first black woman to serve with the first black president. He says he's the goodest president there is. You can't. He calls Zelensky. All right. Bottom line, you're squirming out and saying, okay, well, you know what? Let me retract that. Maybe you pick it after the conventions. No, to be fair to you, maybe you pick it after the conventions, no problem, okay? But I'm trying to get you on the record here because you want to have it both ways. So if I'm right, Joe Biden's gonna drop out before the convention because it's that disastrous. And if you're right, there's no way he would, hold on, let me finish this sentence. So if you're right, there's no way he would drop out because he's about to win. So if he drops out before the convention, will you say, Cenk was right, I was wrong?
No. First of all, you predicted he'd drop out a week ago. And my analysis has nothing to do with whether he will drop out or not. That's up to him, and he could be pressured by Democrats who have no notion of who's electable. You know, for years, Democrats have said, we've nominated wonderful electable, experience proven candidates like Walter Mondale in '84, former vice president. Mike Dukakis, the great governor of Massachusetts in '88, the great John Kerry, senator in '84, the former first lady, US Senator, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Yep.
And what do they all have in common? They've all lost. So yes, the Democrats foolishly could push Biden out, but I told you, I have a plan B, and that would be to preserve the 2 keys for the good of the country. If he's pushed out, he could resign.
Yeah.
Kamala would become president, tick off the incumbency key, and tick off the contest key. So I'm not, shilling for Biden, and I'm not biased. I have predicted as many Republican as Democratic victories, including Donald Trump in 2016, which did not make me very popular in 90% plus Democratic Washington, D.C., where I teach at American University.
Yeah, so you forgot Kamala Harris's word salad key. But I hear you, brother. You're clear, I'm clear. He's gonna drop out before the convention because as his advisors said, he has a near 0% chance of winning. Exactly what I've been saying all along. So we'll see who's right about that. All right, Professor Alan Lictman, thank you for being a good sport.
0% chance of beating Trump in 220.
I did not say that you totally made that up. I said that I was worried about him in the primaries, and I was right to be worried. He nearly lost the whole thing. Any other Democrat would have been better. And in the general election, I was wrong because I thought Biden would blow out Donald Trump. I actually overestimated Biden, but I'm honest about my analysis and I give people the entire context so they can see it for themselves. You seem to be dug in on your position, but we've already aired that out. I appreciate you coming on and I appreciate that you are adamant about your case.
Okay, so as far as those two keys he was just mentioning, the incumbency key and the no contest key. Okay, so you give the incumbency key to the vice president. Well, that's kind of that's a debatable point right there, right? Because sure, she's with the incumbent party, but she's not the actual incumbent. She's not the person that the voters voted for in the primary. Plus, like Cenk said, you forgot about the word salad key. She can't speak to people. So there's a factor right there that the keys don't account for. And this is why he got it spectacularly wrong. He could not have been more wrong. According to his keys, Kamala Harris, it should have been no contest. Now we get to the other key, the contest key. Alan Lictman claims that there was no significant contest during this election. That's false. That's absolutely false, right? We had Dean Phillips was a Democrat that ran on the ticket. What did Democrats do? Right? They didn't speak. He didn't get no media time. He didn't get he was on the polls early on before the primary, but they didn't give him no media time. If he would have gotten the same media that Joe Biden got, I think we would have had a good contender on our hands because Dean Phillips was a centrist Democrat who wasn't insane. He could speak articulable, right? He could get out there and talk to people. He seemed like a good candidate. Even I was paying attention to this guy, but what did Democrats do? They didn't give him the media, the media time that he should have gotten, and they sued him in every single state to keep him off the ballot. You also had RFK Jr., who started his presidential campaign as a Democrat. And what did Democrats do once again? They sued him to keep him off the ballot. He ended up having to run as an independent candidate. So to say that there was no contest, that's where Alan Lictman got it just absolutely wrong. He also went on, there's a key for the economy. He was under the impression the economy was good. He was listening to MSNBC once again. Yeah, the economy, some of the numbers look good, right? The stock market's doing fine. They're creating jobs, blah, 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 blah. Inflation was coming down. But what they didn't factor in was that average everyday Americans were struggling to buy groceries, struggling to pay bills, struggling to do anything and everything. So to the voter base in America, we were in a recession, but the numbers didn't show a recession, making his key absolutely wrong because the sentiment on the ground was recession, even though the numbers didn't show it. Now, there were several other keys, right? But we're not going to get into all that. Those are too esoteric for this video, but Kamala Harris ended up only getting 3 of those keys, and according to the keys, you need to get 6. Donald Trump had the rest of the keys, and once again, proving Alan Lictman to be wrong and Cenk Uygur to be right. Cenk Uygur may have not have predicted this. He was saying he had no idea who was going to win, but he didn't think that Kamala Harris was going to win. He was leaning towards Trump, and we'll give it to him on that one. Sure, fine, whatever. I didn't know either. I'm not a good predictor, but when we took the keys and you base it upon reality, it showed Donald Trump was going to win outright. I don't know how Alan Lictman came to that conclusion. Don't know how, once again, like I said, he's just living in this dream world, this delusion, this MSNBC reality that doesn't translate onto actual reality because it's all fake news. It's all just garbage. And when you live in a garbage fake news world, you don't get the right information and you get shocked on election day when your incumbent party loses badly. loses very badly. This guy's brain is absolutely broken. It's been broken by a media apparatus that wants to sow a narrative instead of delivering reality. And it's like the utter musings of an indignant lunatic trying to portray some reality that doesn't even exist. It's just insane what goes on in the leftist media these days. But I just loved this for some reason. I don't know why I enjoy these things so much, because I don't know. You know, you look at somebody like Alan Lictman. He's been a professor for 50 years, right? I don't know if that's the problem. He doesn't know how to look at reality anymore, or if he just watches the wrong news, doesn't actually get a feel for what's going on in the country. I think that's the problem. He's just isolated himself from the average everyday folk. And when you do that, you're going to lose every single time, because you don't know about the voter base in this country. You don't know how they feel, which way they're leaning, blah, 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 blah. You get it. But Donald Trump had a resounding victory all the way across the board, up and down the ballot. So it was just great in my opinion, but we're going to see what happens. We've got a lot that we've got to deal with now, and hopefully Trump can pull it off. Maybe he can do what he did in his first term to an even better degree. Hopefully he does that. Hopefully he doesn't sink the ship. You know, we're hoping on that. But, you know, if you want to look at his past track record, he's got a pretty good track record so far. I mean, the economy was better than ever under Donald Trump the first time. So we'll see if he can replicate that for this next term, and we'll see exactly what happens, because we really need a hardcore course correction in this country right now. And it's just insane, this path we've been going down, and it seems like people finally started to wise up to what the Democrats were trying to pull off, and we put a stop to that, but just halt it right in its tracks. And hopefully that's good enough. We can, you know, redirect and start going in a different direction and get this country back on track and make America great again. But that's all I got for this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about the keys in Alan Lictman. Is his brain freaking broken, or do you think he was just misinformed? There you go. You know, he blames it on Elon Musk and disinformation. Yeah, I don't think so there, buddy. Right? But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.